So what is it?
I'm the Doctor.
So what is it?
I'm the Doctor.
So what is it?
I'm the Doctor.
Only joking.
I'm the Doctor.
So what is it?
I'm the Doctor.
So what is it?
I'm the Doctor.
Only joking.
I'm the Doctor.
So what is it?
Small off-duty Czechoslovakian traffic warden.
So what is it?
I'm the Doctor.
Only joking.
I'm the Doctor.
So what is it?
I'm the Doctor.
Alright dudes, it's time for another episode of It's Time to Rewind. I am known as Bubbawheat. Not the Bubbawheat, not first name Bubba, last name Wheat, just Bubbawheat. This season is Red Who, where I'm covering British sci-fi like Red Dwarf and Doctor Who, and joining me 3 million years in the future via the TARDIS is my guest Stacey from Stacey's Pop Culture Parlor. How are you doing today?
I'm not too shabby, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. It's good to have you on. I'm kind of recovering from a slight cold, but other than that, not too bad.
Oh no, it's hay fever season over here, so I am in itchy eyeball city, which is not fun, but you know, we have to cope, don't we?
This is my 4th year in Georgia, and springtime in Georgia is, you know, pollen, you know, crazy. Like literally there's a yellow dust on everything for about 3 weeks. Just that much pollen. I
think I might actually die if I lived there. But then again, I am notoriously rubbish at being ill. Like I'm everybody feels sorry for me, break out the tiny violins kind of ill, so yeah.
But for this episode, we are still in the main section of the 2022 New Year's Eve special, Eve of the Daleks, featuring the 13th Doctor Jodie Whittaker. On this episode, we are covering the 8th loop that starts at 49 minutes and 19 seconds with Sarah looking at the time of her phone and rushing into the lift, and ends at 51 minutes and 47 seconds with the Doctor and her companions chilling in Jeff's living storage unit as they get exterminated by the Dalek. But before we jump into this episode, you know, this is your first time on here, and I'd like to know what's your history with Doctor Who as a whole.
Well, I came to Doctor Who in a very bizarre, timey-wimey fashion. When it was announced that it was that New Who was coming out, I thought, well, I've never seen any classic Who, so I'm not going to understand it, so I'll just not bother. And then a couple of years later, my friend Gayla said to me, you realise you're being a humongous idiot, right? Because this show's really, really good. And I was like, well, that's a little bit harsh, but thanks for the honesty. So I actually started watching the show as it aired when season 3 came out, which was the first season with Martha, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's where I started and almost immediately got absolutely hooked. And I was like, no, Gayla was right. Je suis un idiot. So I went back and I watched, in the middle of season 3, I went back and watched 1 and 2. And then I've been watching all of it as it airs since. So I am up to date. But it was a weird way to watch it because, of course, I'd already gotten used to David Tennant and Martha, and then had to go back and I was like, hold on, Christopher Eccleston's here. Just bamboozled myself. Why is Billy Piper there? What's occurred? But
well,
yeah.
And depending on when you started in Martha's season, you know, there's so much Rose baggage in that season.
Yeah, it's. I was trying to sort of keep watching season 3 as it aired, whilst trying to watch the first 2 seasons. But then I realised I was like, this is truly baffling to keep up with. So just watch 1 and 2, come back to 3. I think I rewatched the first couple of episodes of 3 so that I was watching it in order, which is kind of daft actually, because you don't like Doctor Who's not really a show. I mean, there is some baggage, but it's not really a show that you absolutely have to watch every episode in every order. Like it's it's very wibbly wobbly like that, isn't it? But
yeah, for the most part, each season has kind of a you know, overarching background story, but for the most part, the episodes, you know, it's got a lot of one-off episodes, and you know, most episodes the main story is one-off, and then it just has like a little bit of the overarching season arc.
Yeah, a little bit of lore. Yeah, but so that means that I was actually like on the Doctor Who train when they announced that Jodie Whittaker was going to be the next Doctor. And that was very exciting for me. Well, I say exciting, I was quite trepidatious at the time because I was worried that the writers were just going to be like, let's make everything 33 times more difficult for the Doctor because she's a woman. And I was like, oh no. Am I going to be watching this just endlessly frustrated? But thankfully they didn't do that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if you've already talked about this on your show, but how did you feel about Jodie's casting?
Well, I wasn't, I wasn't into Doctor Who until, like, I have mentioned it before, probably a few times, but this special Eve of the Daleks, this was my very first Doctor Who episode because, my
Okay.
podcasting friends were doing a Doctor Who podcast and I was already doing a time loop podcast. So they invited me on for this episode because this is the Groundhog Day episode. And then that's when I started, my first attempt at going through Doctor Who, and I made it, just over 2 seasons, and then I've restarted it when I'm doing this season. So this is still the only Jodie Whittaker's episode that I've seen because I'm still a full Doctor away from getting to Jodie Whittaker's run.
Oh, okay. Because I personally think she's absolutely fantastic, although she does, it really tickled me the first couple of episodes I watched her in because her bubbliness sort of reminded me of, did you ever watch The Fast Show? Paul Whitehouse's character that goes brilliant all the time. Just reminded me of, it's got that same sort of like excitable energy. But yeah, I really like her as a Doctor. I was quite happy when you sent me the episode that you wanted me to watch because I was quite happy to watch a bit more Jodie again.
Nice. Yeah. And this, I think most people are kind of hit and miss with Jodie Whittaker's run as a whole, and most kind of lay the blame on Chibnall. But I also think that most people I've had on think that this special is a high point in her run. So that's always, good, especially, breaking it down like I am into 9 episodes.
Yeah, I mean, I do feel a bit bad for you now though, because you're probably not going to be expecting an awful lot from the the Jodie series, because we've all gone, oh no, this is probably the best one. But I will be fully, completely honest. Like I think the stories were lacking for her. I don't think I liked all of the companions that she had, and I liked her. But the only other story I remember is the episode that had big spiders in it, and the only reason I remember it is because I'm a huge arachnophobe. So I was like, why are we doing spiders again? Why does everybody hate me? I took it personally, that episode.
All right, well, let's go ahead and jump into today's loop. And, I feel like it's been a couple loops since we've had the, confirmation of the shrinking loop time by looking at the phone. But, right off the bat, we get an immediate, from white screen straight into the phone screen with the 23:58 telling us that they only have 2 minutes left. And surprisingly, I think this is one of the most closely accurate, other than the first loop, to the amount of time the actual loop has, because this loop is only 2.5 minutes long.
Yeah, it was. I did end up having to watch the whole episode because I've got a notoriously bad memory, and I did try to just watch the loop on its own because I thought just try and be critical of this one loop, and then I was like, who is that? What is going on? What am I looking? But yeah, I kind of loved that as a conceit throughout the whole episode, that like there's that extra sort of tension of each loop is getting shorter, you've got less and less time to do something, because that's like a genuinely scary thing, isn't it? Not that they were particularly clear about what would actually happen at midnight if they didn't do what they were going to do, but it doesn't matter, it's fine. One of the things I've learnt with Doctor Who is, because I'm very bad at dealing with time travel in things, because I get very het up on the like, well, that's caused a paradox because if they didn't go back in time and do that thing, then that would never have happened and they wouldn't have had to go back in time, and my brain falls apart. And I've had to, with Doctor Who, I've had to become very sort of like, just accept whatever they say, move along with your life. But I don't think I ever fully understood exactly why they were like, no, midnight's the deadline, what was happening at me. I don't remember. I don't know. But
Well, I mean, because it's New Year's Eve.
well, yeah, I mean, I suppose. But it was a really good narrative thing to include in there, because it does give you that sense of like, uh-oh, they've only got 2 minutes left.
Mm-hmm.
Holy Mother of Pearl, like,
Yeah, it's the whole, ticking clock of the episode.
Yeah, because I think if you'd have kept having the same sort of loop of however many was it, like about 11 minutes or something to start with, it wouldn't have had quite that sort of sense of franticness in the last couple of loops of like, this is our last shot and we've only got 60 seconds to do it in now, which is really, really fun for a tension kind of point of view.
Yeah, and this is really the part of the episode where it's, we're in the last 2 loops, and this is the as the Doctor mentioned in the last loop, this is the decoy loop. So this is them, trying to throw the Daleks off by not revealing their full plan.
That was the one thing that I thought was a bit weird about this loop, because the Daleks were shown to be very, very smart in all of the other loops. They were one step ahead every time. They were like a loop ahead every time. They always knew what was going on. And I thought the Doctor and everybody else were too obviously decoying, if that makes sense. Like, if you assume that the Daleks aren't idiots, which we can't do because they were being very smart beforehand, I don't feel like you can just nonchalantly sit on a sofa and be like, oh, hello. Oh, yeah, this is my plan, sitting on a sofa awaiting death. Like, I would be so suspicious if I was those Daleks. Like, I don't know, like, that really threw me, because it doesn't seem like like, could you not decoy by pretending to do something else that looks like an actual plan? I don't know, but maybe they figured because they only had 1 loop left that it wouldn't be a problem because the Daleks wouldn't have time to figure out what they were actually doing. I don't know.
Well, one thing that I have said that, during the course of this entire episode is that this episode it threads the line between making the Daleks menacing but also still silly. Yeah.
I think, well, I've always had a bit of a problem with the Daleks, to be honest, because I do think they are set up as too much of a terrifying threat that we don't ever actually see. They don't deliver on that all that much. And I quite liked this episode, because this is the one where, I mean, there are still some instances of them having the world's worst aim that I've ever seen in my life. But at least there are, like, there's so many times in this where they're like, shut up, I'm going to shoot you in the face. And then they do exactly that. And you're like, oh, they are a bit scary, actually, aren't they? Because they do that typical villain thing usually, don't they? Where it's like they'll stand around and talk for ages, or like, you could have killed the Doctor 15 times over, but you're just having a chat with her, and why are you doing it? Whereas this episode, I think, is quite good in the fact that, like, a lot of the times they just turn up and they're like, oh, look, a guy, pew, he's dead.
Yeah, and in this loop, we get the moment where, Sarah's just running to the elevator, and then the Dalek just looks at her and says, exit the ascension device.
Yeah, I do love a lot of the things that the Daleks said throughout this episode. Like, Daleks are not fair is a great thing to say, because that is categorically true, isn't it? But the bit where she runs into the lift and does the sad phone call with her mom really upsets me, though, every time.
Yeah, it's this great moment, because we've been following Sarah through this entire episode, and this this repeated thing with her mom, which I love the actress that plays her mom, and I'm not familiar with Father Ted, but other guests have told me that she's kind of a mainstay from her role in Father Ted.
Yeah.
And but she is so great, and I love this because as the audience, we are seeing this from Sarah's perspective, and how she is just, she's gone through this, she knows that this is getting to the end, and so she tries to have this heartfelt conversation with her mom, and her mom is just her mom. Like, she's acting exactly the same way she's been acting this entire time, because she is the kind of the one element that's outside the time loop. So her mom is not repeating this same timeline.
Yeah, and I think it's great as well that they sort of keep her as the sort of comic relief there, because otherwise that scene could have been actually like really horrible. But the fact that they just have her being like, "Are you okay? Do you like why are you telling me you love me? That's really weird of you. You've never done this before. What are you doing?" And I also love the ongoing joke of her thinking that the phone lines aren't going to be free at midnight. Like, because that is 1,000% something my mom does every year. She'll send me a Happy New Year text at about 1:45 because she'll be like, I don't want it to get lot. And I'm like, Mother, that's not how phones work. Like, we're okay now. We can do text at midnight. It's fine. But no, every time, 23:45, Happy New Year. All right. Bless her.
Yeah, and I also love, I think Ashlyn B, she is fantastic. And
she's so good.
Like, and the way that her face switches, like, you can see her attitude, like, going from this, this melancholy, I'm going to die, to annoyed with her mom, and just like you can see the change happen on her face, and I love it.
Yeah, I think her casting was a really like inspired choice for this episode, because that character could be kind of not a nice lady. I mean, and you understand a little bit why she's so grumpy, considering the fact that, she's been let down by her co-worker and she's having to work on New Year's Eve and she's a bit lonely and sad. And there's this one guy who always comes on New Year's Eve who seems like a bit of a weirdo. So you can understand why she's a bit, and she keeps getting routinely murdered by robots. So there's also that. So you can see why she'd be a bit cross. But I think if it wasn't played with the level of comedy that Ashlyn B brings to it, I don't know if she would be as sympathetic a character, and I don't know if you would believe that she and, oh my God, why didn't I write his name down? Because I've totally forgotten what it was. Flipping heck, the guy that she ends up with. I feel like you wouldn't believe Nick. I feel like you wouldn't believe that would be a thing if she continued to not be, because she's horrible to him earlier in the episode, like
yeah,
like truly awful. So I think it's good that they had somebody who can bring that range of like comedy and heartfeltness, and also intensely frustrated woman who keeps getting murdered.
Yeah, and I mentioned it in that episode, but I love that moment whenever she does have that almost too harsh of joke, whenever he says, I'll see you next year, and she says, You've been working on that all day, have you? And he kind of quietly says yes, and then she has this look on her face, her face kind of drops where she realizes that that was a little bit too mean.
Yeah, it feels like that's the first time she suddenly thinks, why does this guy actually keep coming? Like, why doesn't he have better New Year's plans than this? It's like, oh, it's so obvious he's coming to see you, and it's kind of adorable, if a little bit stalkery.
Yeah, and then in this loop we get this Dalek POV of the Dalek going into Nick's storage, and I kind of like that the reveal of all the empty shelves that we had seen earlier in this episode being filled with all his ex's stuff, and then the Dalek says he's formed a barricade, and then he blows it up, and Nick is has this great moment where he's like, oh, thank you for the therapy, oh, that feels so great.
Yeah, I do. I actually think it's kind of sweet that he was keeping all of his ex's stuff in case they asked for it back, but not keeping it in his house because he doesn't want to look at it. But oh, bless him, when he finally realises, like, yeah, they're not going to ask for it back, mate, because they don't care. They've moved on, and you really should too. It's really sweet that he gets that moment of catharsis. And I do think him saying, like, exterminate, as cheesy as it is, really worked for me, because I was like, it feels like he's getting a full character arc, even though he's not really the main focus of the episode. So I think that's really nice, even though he does, again, get murdered then and there.
Yeah, and I also love how that Dalek is just, like, completely not on board. He's like, I have no idea. He doesn't say it, but he's basically like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm just going to kill you.
Yeah, look, just die already. I don't know what you're talking about. Just let me kill you. And he's like, all right, yeah, fine.
Yeah, and then we cut back to Sarah, getting to the top floor, the 8th floor of this storage facility, and she just kind of opens the door and accepts her death.
Mm-hmm. Again, like that's another moment that, like, the trust that everybody has in the Doctor. Like, I don't know if I would be that cool about getting murdered, even if I thought there was going to be another time loop. Because you are sort of entrusting your life to 3 complete strangers who appeared in your locked down facility, in a police box you've never seen before. But yeah, I mean, I think I think again it's Aisling B. She does it so convincingly. Like, you are so in that moment with that character that it's like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I do think having her being in the lift and going up to the other floor is a good decoy for the Daleks. And to be honest, Nick being in his storage room, because it looks like he's trying to plan something with all that crap that he's put on the shelves.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it is the Doctor and the companions that let this decoy thing down, because there's no way a Dalek's going to think them 3 sitting down on a sofa eating the world's saddest expired beef and beans is going to be...
3 years expired beef and beans.
I mean, I've never once in my life seen a tin of beef and beans. Is that a thing people eat? That's disgusting. Says the woman who will happily eat a tin of beans and sausage, which is, I mean, sad little cocktail sausages in a tin of beans. So, what am I?
Well, I mean, in the US, we don't... I don't think I've ever seen beef and beans. It's usually pork and beans. That's kind of the more common one, which is basically just beans with like one little piece of bacon in the entire can.
No, I will say, I will get on my high horse about beans and sausage, because even though it is objectively dreadful, also I love it. But I am a bit of a weirdo. I'll eat most things, so maybe I'm not to be trusted on the culinary front.
Well, I mean, I actually have, I just went to the grocery store and I bought a big tin of beans and a sausage to make sausage and beans sometime this week.
Yes. I love that. Do you ever have beans on toast? I know that's like a very British thing, but I love that. It's one of my comfort meals, that is.
No, that's something that I've never tried.
Yeah, see, you need to get on the beans and toast, but not Heinz beans. People will have you believe that Heinz beans are the beans, but no, I'm not having it. They're bad. They're actually bad. Anyway, this isn't Beans Cast.
Yeah, it'd be more appropriate if we were in the loop where we actually had on time, in that giant storage units that was floor to ceiling beef and beans.
You do have to worry a little bit about Jeff, don't you, and all the stuff that he was hoarding. Like, what was that man doing?
Yeah, that's I've talked about it before, but I love that. Even though we never see or hear Jeff in this episode, Jeff feels like a fully fleshed out character.
Yeah. Well, I did wonder, and I know this is jumping outside of our time loop a bit, but maybe you'll have the answer for me. There is a man who appears at the very end who sees the sort of fireworks display and says, "Oh, good display that." And I wondered if that might be Jeff, but I don't know if he's somebody who's cropped up before that we should know, and I've just forgotten because I'm bad at brain.
No, I meant to, look him up because I think, I believe, my earlier guest, Ilaki, who's been on, several times this season and is a big, a huge Doctor Who fan. I believe he mentioned that the taxi driver was actually someone who's had a previous role in Doctor Who, but I forgot to look that up. But I don't believe he said anything about the, the random guy seeing the fireworks, and I just assumed that that's just a random guy.
I just thought it was such a weird thing to include if it's not somebody we should know. Mm-hmm. Like, who's this man? Why is he there? But, like I say, my memory is so bad. It could have been in literally the episode before this one and I'd have forgotten. So,
yeah, and I do kind of love that, even though it doesn't make a narrative sense, I do love that the Doctor, Yaz, and Dan are just kind of sitting, chilling in this, this storage unit that Jeff has clearly been living in at some point.
I wonder how long he's been living there and Sarah just hasn't noticed, like, at all. That's really funny.
Well, I mean, everything that Jeff's been storing, like, Sarah, she seemed. I get the impression, especially in this episode, that this is the first time she's actually gone outside of the first level in years.
Yeah, you get the sense throughout the episode that she was not really particularly excited about the prospect of owning a storage facility, and that excitement has gotten even smaller considering the fact that they only have one paying customer who keeps turning up on New Year's Eve to be a bit weird at her. Yeah, I can see why you wouldn't bother. You would think though that you would have to have some, like, I don't know, cleaners or somebody just having a peep in the rooms every now and again, but I guess not.
Yeah, I mean, she's got the security system with the cameras. You know, that she probably figures, oh, that's good enough. But you know, Jeff clearly knows the where all the cameras are pointed, and so he puts everything he's not supposed to be storing outside of the view of the cameras.
I do love that he has that one storage room that's just full of like costume stuff, like costume party nonsense. You're like, what is that for? Like you can see where you might be keeping the beef and beans, like what the event that you might need. That I can understand that, but I can't understand what situation you would be in that you'd be like, right, what I need right now is probably like a sparkly cowboy outfit. That's probably what this situation calls for. Although that might have made the episode slightly more hilarious.
Yeah, and then one other thing that I do like about this moment with the Doctor and her companions is that even though they are being, completely flippant about this, there is that one brief moment of seriousness where she tells them to brace for the final go around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it always interests me with stuff like this because I just think, like, what if there hadn't been a final go around? Like, what if she was wrong? What if midnight wasn't the thing? like we just sort of arbitrarily decided because New Year's, why not? But like, what if that wasn't the thing? What if this was the last one and you've just sat around making jokes about beef and beans? That'd be a sad end of the episode, wouldn't it?
Yeah, well, I think it helps that, I believe that once the Doctor understands that it's the TARDIS that's creating the time loop, that she's a lot more comfortable with the fact that, the TARDIS isn't going to do anything that's, going to kill her.
You'd like to think not, yeah. Although the TARDIS does seem to have a mind of its own sometimes, but yeah.
Yeah, although usually whenever the TARDIS is doing something that's, it seems like it's misbehaving, it usually ends up being the correct decision, or it seems to be doing something for the better of the story.
Yeah, it's being helpful. It's just you don't really realise it straight away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then that's the end of this loop. The three of them get exterminated, and it goes to white for the last time.
Yeah, it's like, personally, I just love the idea of them having like 1 minute to execute this final thing that they're going to do, and I love the fact that it all hinges on Sarah's mom making a phone call at the correct time. Because that is not something I would trust of pretty much anybody I know. Like, if I asked somebody to phone me at a particular time, they'd be like, why, what are you talking about? No.
All right, well, that's that wraps up another episode. Thank you for joining me, and I, kind of a teaser. I'll have you back for next week's episode, but for this time, why don't you take a moment and let people know where else you can be found online?
Yeah, sure. The best places to follow me, if you like the noises that came out of my mouth, are on Threads, Instagram, and no, that's probably it, at Stacey's Parlour. And you can have a listen to my podcast, Stacey's Pop Culture Parlour, on Spotify, Good Pods, or via popcultureparlour.podbean.com. My show is full of swearing, though, fair warning. I feel like I should mention that now because, I've been very normal this episode.
And I'll also have links to that in the show notes. And as always, I am Bubbawheat, and you can find me everywhere on social media where I'm at Bubbawheat. But I am most active these days on Threads if you want to keep up with what I'm doing. But if you want to shoot me a message, you can at me on any other social media where you find me, and I will most likely answer you as long as you are saying something nice. And this show, It's Time to Rewind, can be found on all podcatchers out there. And we also have a Facebook group, It's Time to Rewind, a time loop group, and you can join that to discuss episodes as they come out and to be informed of what I'm doing in future seasons. And also feel free to share news, reviews on anything time loop in media out there. It's all welcome in the Facebook group. And until next time, smoke me a kipper and I'll regenerate before breakfast next week.